There was a time when humanity almost disappeared. At one point, there were fewer people on Earth than in a single modern city. The cause wasn't war or disease. It was a volcano that darkened the skies for years. What happened next changed our planet forever and marked the beginning of a new era for humankind. About 74,000 years ago, the world was a very different place. Earth was locked in an ice age. Glaciers covered much of the north, while regions near the equator suffered from drought and violent winds. Temperatures shifted constantly, making life for both animals and early humans harsh and unpredictable. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, already existed, but they were few in number. Small groups of hunter-gatherers lived across Africa and parts of southern Asia. They had no permanent shelters, no agriculture, and no way to protect themselves from natural disasters. Their survival depended entirely on the environment. At that time, Earth was geologically active. Volcanoes erupted often, releasing ash and gas into the atmosphere. But most events were local. Deep underground, however, enormous pressure was building beneath what is now the island of Sumatra. That pressure would soon lead to one of the most powerful eruptions in 2 million years. The climate was already unstable, and ecosystems were fragile. Even a small disruption could destroy entire species. For early humans, every day was a struggle against predators, hunger, disease, and the elements. They had no idea that a much greater threat was coming, one that would push their kind to the very edge of extinction. Around 74,000 years ago, a massive volcano erupted on the island of Sumatra, the site known today as Lake Toba. It was one of the largest eruptions in the last 2 million years. The explosion ejected more than 2,800 cubic kilometers of rock, ash, and gas, thousands of times more than any eruption in modern history. Ash clouds spread across the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and cooling the planet. Within days, the sky darkened, and temperatures began to fall worldwide. Scientists believe global temperatures dropped by as much as 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. This sudden cooling triggered what is known as a volcanic winter that lasted for decades. Near the eruption site, everything was destroyed instantly: forests, animals, and entire landscapes. Even thousands of kilometers away, thick layers of ash covered the ground. Archaeologists still find traces of this ash in India and the Arabian Peninsula, proof of how far the disaster reached. The eruption caused massive earthquakes and tsunamis. Sulfur and aerosols released into the air created acid rain and disrupted ocean chemistry. Plant life collapsed, food chains broke down, and large mammals began to die off. For early humans, survival became almost impossible. Hunger, disease, and freezing temperatures forced many groups to extinction. Only a few populations, far from the epicenter and in more stable climates, managed to endure the years of darkness that followed. After the Toba eruption, Earth entered one of the coldest and most unstable periods in human history. Temperatures dropped sharply. Droughts and long winters destroyed plant life, and many animals disappeared. For early humans, finding food and shelter became a daily struggle. Genetic studies show that the human population collapsed to only a few thousand individuals. Scientists call this the genetic bottleneck, a moment when a species nearly vanishes, and all future generations descend from a small group of survivors. These survivors most likely lived in tropical regions of Africa, where the climate remained relatively stable. There, access to water, fish, and edible plants gave them a small but crucial advantage. Communities that lived closer to the eruption zone or in colder areas didn't make it. Entire populations disappeared, leaving only scattered groups of Homo sapiens across the continent. Modern DNA evidence confirms that all humans alive today descend from this limited population that survived about 70,000 years ago. Low genetic diversity among modern humans still reflects that ancient near-extinction event. To endure the harsh new world, early humans had to adapt quickly. They improved the use of fire, built more secure shelters, and learned to find food in new ways. cooperation became essential. Sharing resources and working together increased the chances of survival. This period likely strengthened communication skills and social bonds. The ability to plan, coordinate, and teach others became a defining advantage of Homo sapiens. When the climate finally began to recover, these resilient groups started to expand again, leaving Africa and spreading across the world. The eruption nearly ended our story, but it also forged the traits that would ensure humanity's survival: adaptability, cooperation, and intelligence. The Toba eruption didn't just devastate the planet, it reshaped the course of human evolution. When the volcanic winter finally ended, Earth looked completely different. Landscapes had changed, ecosystems were destroyed, and entire species had vanished. For the few surviving humans, this new world demanded intelligence, creativity, and cooperation. As conditions slowly improved, the survivors adapted. They developed new tools, refined hunting strategies, and began to rely more on teamwork. Sharing knowledge and working together became the foundation of human society. The need to survive forced people to plan ahead, communicate, and support each other, traits that would define humanity forever. Isolation among small groups led to genetic and cultural diversity. Over thousands of years, these scattered bands of humans began to migrate again, exploring new lands and climates. This was the beginning of a new wave of human expansion across the planet. Anthropologists believe that the cognitive leap, the growth of language, memory, and symbolic thought, may have begun during this time. Survival under extreme pressure required better coordination, faster decision-making, and imagination. Those abilities became evolutionary advantages, passed down through generations. Many researchers also think that this period marked the birth of early spirituality and culture. Humans began to ask questions about nature, death, and purpose. The first myths and rituals might have emerged as attempts to understand the forces that once nearly destroyed them. The catastrophe that almost ended humanity may also have been the event that made us who we are. It turned fragile survivors into thinkers, builders, and storytellers, shaping the modern human mind. Traces of the ancient catastrophe may have survived not only in rocks and ice cores, but also in human memory. Across cultures and continents, people tell stories of great floods, endless winters, and skies darkened for years. These legends appear in places that were never connected, from Mesopotamia to the Americas, from India to the Pacific. Many scientists believe such myths could be echoes of real disasters that shaped early humanity. The eruption of Toba and the volcanic winter that followed may have inspired ancient tales of destruction and renewal. For generations, survivors could have passed down memories of the darkness, hunger, and fear that once covered the world. Stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, the biblical flood, and similar traditions in Asia and Africa all describe the same pattern: the earth cleansed by a global catastrophe and life beginning again. Whether or not they directly refer to Toba, these myths reflect a universal human memory. Our awareness that nature can erase everything in a single moment. Through myth and storytelling, humanity preserved the lesson of fragility and survival. Even before writing existed, people remembered that the world could change overnight, and that only unity and adaptation could save them. The story of Toba is a reminder of how fragile humanity really is. We like to believe we control the planet, but one eruption, one shift in nature can erase everything we've built. 74,000 years ago, our species came close to extinction. Yet that same disaster forced us to adapt, to think, and to cooperate. It's shaped the abilities that now define who we are. Today, the threat no longer comes only from nature. Much of it comes from ourselves. Climate change, resource depletion, and global instability mirror the same challenges our ancestors faced. The question remains: if another catastrophe comes, will we survive it again?